Now that we're in Mudbox, we're going to do a little bit of fundamentals on just using layers and a couple of brushes that are sometimes missed over in different videos from general mudboxing videos. So first thing is we're going to go from paint to sculpt, and it's very important that we are never going to be painting on the actual, this is actually his left eye, which is good talking about this. We're never going to be actually painting on the main layer. We're always going to make a new layer on top of it. But if you notice right now it says left eye, and if I left mouse click, blink, you can see I clicked on the actual skin, so it went to the face, or I can click back on the eye and it goes on the eye. So I don't want it to go on the eye. But you pretty much click over it. You can also go to the option list right here, and you could go and click on the eye and the mesh and things like that. And I'm gonna click, and I want to isolate just the eye right now. I can say eye, and I can unisolate the eye, and then I can click on the head, and I'm like this. I can isolate the head and things like that. I'm just right clicking. Okay. Okay, that's another thing I want to cover. So also, I want to deselect this. Deselect mono. Okay. Now if I hit W, it brings up the wireframe, and you can see how his eye is kind of bulging through a little bit, which is good to see where his cavity is and when you bring his eye down. Good. Okay. I'm going to turn that off for now. Boom. Okay. Now I mentioned we don't want to sculpt on our original mesh. So we're going to go up here, and here's our, add new layer, and then we're going to have groups, and you can break, and then you can mask and things like that. I'm going to create a new layer. Boom. Okay. So now I can go and I can start painting here, and I can hit 1, 2, 3, 4 hotkeys, goes back and forth between these brushes. Actually goes all the way through. If you keep on going up the number pads that go across on here. It's kind of funny is that I really use these first 4 a lot. A matter of fact, I use grab a lot, relax and smooth. I also use wax a lot because it kind of builds up on top of each other. If I can see it right here. There's wax. And then we have mask and we have erase. I really need to use these guys more, and also freeze as much too. But I do use these hotkeys from time to time. Okay, so I can grab and I can just literally start, moving the mesh up. Now I have my mirror on, so let me show you that. By the way, undo, same thing, Command Z. So I'm going to turn my layering off for now, and you can see I can just move the mesh around and things like that. Now the important thing to understand is that now my layers, I can turn this on and off, or I can make a new layer, and that one doesn't have any of that deformation on it, so I can go down to the one previous. It is important the one I have clicked on is what I'm manipulating. So like if I move his face down like that, and I turn this one on, it's kind of even them out. So this is an additive process. It's pretty much adding on top of what the last one is. So if I don't need these guys, I can just trash, and it goes right back to the original. And that's why we don't mess with this one, because we don't want to mess with the original face. Okay, so let's cover a couple of other interesting tools. As you notice that if I'm trying to isolate the upper part of the lid, that can be kind of a problem, because I'll always be like pulling the lower half of the lid like that. You also say my brush is gigantic. Well, I can decrease the size of my brush by holding on B. I can go in and out like that, just like in Maya. And this line that's going above when I hold on B, that's the intensity. That's M. I can bring that up and down to increase and decrease. And you can see the strength on the right hand side going up and down like that. Okay. So you can see. Cool. Okay. So what if I wanted to paint just the upper part of the lid without getting the bottom part? I just wanted to close the lid or something like that. Well, what I can do is there's this brush called Freeze. Now, Freeze allows us to paint things that we do not want to actually manipulate. And you can see if I hit 4 now and I move up, only the eyelids actually, and you can see the eyelid's still moving a little below. And that's because I probably can paint it a little more thoroughly. Can make the brush a little smaller, go into Freeze, and make sure I really get that. Now, I got a little bit of the eye above it. So if I hold down Control, that's the opposite. You can see how I'm painting away that top part now. Okay, and that should allow me to go on my grab tool and move my eyelid down. Make my brush a little bigger. Like that. Now this is a great time to make sure that my eyelid is still in there. I could W. You can see the wireframe. Okay, right click and say deselect model. Like that. Okay, now I made a mistake here. I did not have my mirror on. So I want to set this back. So along with holding down Control and painting off my mask like this, I can also unselect it completely to turn it off. And that's actually Shift U. And he's like, well, how did you know that to Shift U? Well, under, let's see, where are we? Right here. Under Edit, we have freeze selected, invert freeze. Like I invert freeze, it'll invert it. And then I can say unfreeze all. Okay. Now, you probably think, well, how do I messed it up. How do I get back? Well, because we're on a layer, it remembers what its original position is. So I can go into Erase, and I can erase my eye like that. And I can erase what I did. And this is going to be a tool we're going to use a lot when we're going right and left side on the face. But now I want to turn my mirroring back on. So I go to mirror. Now this character is centered on here, but I typically do a local X, because if he's actually off to the side or anything like that, it will go from there. So now you can see, you could probably see another dot on him. So I'm going to freeze again. I just wanted to show you unfreeze something. Okay. Control, got a little bit too much on there. Okay. So now I hit 4. Looks like the eye's way too back in the geometry. So I have to double check that. Okay. And then I could say, you know, I kind of moved the upper lid. Maybe I just want the lid to be painted. So I'm going to go into freeze. And I'm going to erase the top. So that kind of comes back up. So it's only the lid, not the actual brow. And I can see how that looks. Like that. And I can always put, I still have a little creasing there, it needs to get fixed. Now I can always put the brow drop and raise lower, but this allows me just to blink the eye, just the eyelid itself, or work with it, so you can separate away from it. I erased a little bit more underneath it so the lower lid wouldn't move. And I could see how I had to go through there and hit Shift U to undo it. And I can zoom in, and then you could actually start painting off that area. But I just want to show you the fundamentals of, you know, navigating, creating a layer, then going through and, you know, working off of the freeze and the erase and the different tools here. And as we're going through more, I'll go through more and more detail on those. But that's pretty much our fundamentals of just some tools you're going to use during the creating your blend shape process.